Hello, and welcome to the series finale of former Flings commentary track. My name is Ken Kreckler.
I'm Rich Metzger.
Yeah, Rich Metzger is here with me. We've had a series of comments on YouTube about how much they wanted to figure out what kind of commentary we would have about the production. Um, Once you become as famous as us, like, going from a YouTube sensation overnight like that is really weird. So, I don't know, Rich. Here we are watching the first section of this video. What do you think about me calling you garbage in the
I like it
you
because I do have times where I view myself as garbage, just like everyone else who does terrible
You're still
things in
super
their
hot.
lives.
That's great.
so you have
How do you feel
a
about that? Is that
really
working out for you?
perpetual self-doubt and self-shame
How do
that
you
you
remember,
have yet to address and conquer.
time together
Yeah,
when
because I want to be really awesome and stuff, and I get in my own way.
I mean, part of being awesome is having that doubt and having that mystery, having some sort of achievement to
you just came to insult me?
to. I apologize to our listeners. Rich is very intoxicated at this time. He's had over 3 beers, and even though they were light beers, they seem to have had an effect.
Oh, duels. They really get you going.
Hmm.
Notice that people drinking duels tend to flip out.
Let's talk about this segment here where the little girl walks out. You want to tell me what your experience was like dealing with a little girl?
Yeah, it reminded me of a bleak future where I have people.
No, like in a literal way. What was it like to deal with a little
Oh,
girl
it
on
was it
set?
was it was awesome because I got to watch her improvise lines, and that's like a little. It's a little girl improvising lines based on the feedback she's getting, really from just between you and Alicia, because I don't have that much of a role here, which I actually liked.
Well, we had limited
And
time.
she was really funny, and you were really good at encouraging her to talk.
Yeah, I'm not.
And
But you
it
didn't
was
know
really funny.
you didn't know that there was a little girl in the next room that was going to come out on set.
No, I didn't. That was a surprise I wasn't really prepared for.
How did you react?
It was enjoyable. I didn't know exactly how to react because when you're around a kid, you get that inherent fear of like doing something that the parent doesn't approve of, and creating complex situations. But obviously, it was made for comedy.
Well, I actually made sure that it was okay to swear as much as possible with as many F words as possible, and I had total clearance from the mother to do that, and only used one. I only used one like F word.
Yeah, it was really fun, and she took like multiple takes and was really cool about it. So
Yeah.
it was a good child, good parenting. And here's Nicole Dallaire.
What do you remember about Nicole Dallaire? I think I'm asking you this in this.
Nicole
exact
Dallaire was
moment.
very proper and self-confident and happy about what she did as far as taking pictures and stuff.
Okay, that's great. That's wonderful.
And yeah, also really selfish and Jewish.
Well, we'll edit that out. What do you mean selfish and Jewish?
Well, I remember her getting made fun of by somebody for being Jewish, and
That was me. I was the
obviously-
one that was making.
Obviously, she's very selfish because she's just charging people to take pictures that anyone off the street could take for them. Once you establish some modicum of trust and provide the proper equipment.
What kind of trust? I'm sorry. What kind of trust? What kind of trust?
Some modicum of trust where you can trust
Mike,
someone else.
what is the word?
holding
What is the word that
equipment
you're saying?
You
What is
own.
modicum?
Modicum?
Oh,
Medium?
a monicum of trust.
What did I do? No, tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I thought you were trying to say mitochondrium, and that even made all more questions. So it's just
That's really weird. I don't know why you project Star Wars.
I underestimate your intelligence on a frequent level. So now.
It seems so perfect. You're doing a great job.
What do you think of our chemistry on set? How do you interpret the
I
reaction?
like it because we are totally comfortable with insulting each other both in overt and covert ways, which we may not even get at the time until we review it, which is the point because we're both gonna look back
I feel
on
like I'm really
the end product and see what each other did with it, and actually gain more context after it's complete.
Well, we had to do the part where you make fun of her dress. The dress isn't that nice. We had to do that like 3 times because I kept laughing. I kept fucking the audio up so it wouldn't work. I think we had to do this a couple times too.
Like what? Like
And then the conversation here is like all over the map. Like we did so many different takes of all this bullshit. And then
You can say
and then this is my
It reminds me of the little girls in Bioshock or something. They're just so creepy.
It's from The Shining. Get cultured. You really don't know that that's from The Shining?
No, I've never seen The Shining or Schindler's List. I'm really not up to speed on the
Schindler's List is-
cultural references of this episode.
They're both basically boring. Do you want to talk about the beard joke here?
I've been growing it since
Oh, I
the
miss
last
that
episode.
feeling of like running my
Because I
hand
read on
through it.
Facebook that a beard can
Do you
help
want to
with,
talk about the
crazy
beard
things.
joke?
Yeah, we made references to it on the Danny Douglas episode, and then at some point I decided I would just get lazy and stop shaving anyway, just to kind of see where my biology was at as far as growing a beard, which you can see it's not very far along, but I figured I would keep it, and as motivation to keep it and an excuse to keep it, it would be for the show to make some tiny little joke.
But we had different versions of the joke.
Yeah, we were arguing about, or just exchanging ideas on how we wanted to portray it or whatever, and ultimately it's up to you. But it could have been funny if it was.
Well, so our first version was that during random cuts there would be like parts of your face haphazardly shaven, and then there was the joke where I told you to shave it, and then there was the joke where I told you to shave it, and then that didn't work. Because I thought it would be funny if the girl told you. Oh, and this is Megan McCallum who eventually tells you to shave it. Which
She was being overly sexy. I think that hashtag is actually...
hashtag overly sexy.
And I do witchy stuff.
Dude, what do you mean you think she was being overly sexy?
You thought she was, obviously.
Well, I said that the voice because she did. She's like,
Yeah,
hello,
but then
Kim.
like putting a hashtag together, that's funny. And you can tell she's
So what are you?
trying to be sexy.
So what were you thinking in the moment where? What were you thinking in the? Sorry. What were you thinking in these moments where she's telling you about witchcraft and the essential emerging oil
I
market?
thought it was right up my alley because like I like studying that stuff too, but I don't know. I act out some of it, but a lot of it's just really interesting to see how other people portray it. And then once you start asking her about it, she had only been into it since the beginning of the year, which then I found was really interesting.
No, that's not true. She's been interested in that since I've fucking. Well, I mean, just witchcraft. First of all, it's all nonsense.
Or the tarot cards at least. I remember her saying she took a class in January, so that was like a new thing to her, and that's even more interesting to me because she's just getting into it.
And then he died.
Sorry,
That was
that
the,
time.
the line.
Yeah, and then where you're like, that's what happens to like her dad or her grandfather actually did pass away, and then you're like, that's how I interpret that information, which I didn't even understand in that moment.
Messages get delivered in all sorts of weird ways.
Complete embarrassment.
Appropriate.
And I laughed.
All right, so now we have.
What so you have the whole galaxy on your pants. That's crazy.
Well, you got a special order on
Here she is. You
eBay.
can see like doing the Jedi mind trick to convince me to shave my beard, and it totally worked.
Oh, I think we did this like 4 times in a row in order to get it
Until
right.
you were satisfied, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about my directorial style when it comes to dictating the actions of others?
Well, it reminds me of my childhood in that, it's a lot of verbal abuse and being told what to do, and you're like, why the fuck are we doing this? And then you see the result, and you're
This
like,
is my natural
yeah,
hair
so
color.
necessary, but I'm glad.
It's been a while, Ken.
That's
made someone happy.
that's a lot deeper than I thought.
At least I don't know that.
Sorry, I'm a little
would be
morbid
the-
sometimes.
That's fine. So now we had this moment while by the way, the audio of you shaving your face with that buzzing sound effect is actually sincere. That's like the actual sound of
Was
you
it in
shaving.
there?
Yeah.
I
Oh yeah,
didn't
it's in there.
notice.
So now you sit down. So now you're all okay. So now
As
and then
fast as possible.
witchcraftery,
She must have cast
which is
something
not a
with the
word.
spell.
Yeah,
Ken
I
became
know that.
aware of it and cut the thing off before it became some diabolical.
Because I mean, part of
pest.
magic culture is really
She's
just
at
like
fault.
making up words or
Sorry,
assigning
Megan.
new definition of words or expanding definition of words. Really, just making people interpret the
Oh
same,
my God.
the same old words differently or making up new stuff.
Dear God. All right, so here's our rapid change. Now, why don't you tell me about what's happening here?
Here we're flipping to the documentary, which kind of flashes back to the beginning. We also introduced one of my best friends, Scott Yakima, who did such a good job playing like the VH1 guy, going inside the show.
Why don't you tell us all about how this all went down?
Something. We're not very handsome.
I had no idea that Scott was participating. Actually, I had mentioned to him
Former Flings.
that we were going to be doing some filming or whatever, and they didn't really get back to me. But you must have talked to him and got
Most
him to
of us
come
are
over
aware of
and do
Penny
this part, which
Freckler.
was so funny.
His award-winning comics,
It
Rad
made me
Penis
laugh so
Size,
hard when I saw
and
it.
Meteoric
It
Rise
was
to
so
Fame.
dumb every time because he's so good.
Well, because we're coming
with
up.
his stage movements. He just executed them so well.
Well, we're coming up on now. Is Scott even in this image? 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't
this
even
is
know.
Scott in the
Okay,
middle.
I was
to
hoping.
the left is our other friend.
I was
Lance,
really
and
hoping it
I'm
was
on the
because I was
right.
just stealing
and I'm
shit off
actually
your
wearing
Facebook.
Scott's T-shirt that I stole from him there.
So, what do we think about this? This is one of my favorite shots that I think I've ever composed in my entire life, except
great-
for the one that's coming up.
A great transition, just to throw another visual joke
That's
in
the one.
there. And like I just mentioned, his body control through all these is like really well acted in my opinion. I really applaud it.
Okay, so now here's where we introduce Brittany into the situation, which you are, by the way, congratulations, you are still engaged to. It's been over a week.
Yeah, we're hanging on by a
Nobody
thread.
cares. Nobody
What are you
cares.
doing in my house?
That was really one of the funniest jokes of the whole thing there. I know it's like
What, the
kind of
toothbrush joke?
it's like kind of canned and just hanging there, but it was just like done really well. And like you come out with like a shirt and some of the toothbrush.
Well, and remember, like
Scott.
Scott. So just for anyone, nobody's gonna listen to this, but if anyone ever does, me and Scott didn't know each other very well at all. Like he just comes over, he gets into a wheelchair and wheels around. He says these words that don't make any sense. He's acting like a Playboy model on a couch, and I'm telling him, by the way, I'm gonna come out in a towel. By the way, I was. Oh, no, I was wearing shorts underneath the towel, but that was all I was wearing underneath the towel. And then he's just like, "That's fine." So then we did that 2 or 3 times. All right, so now we're in the. Okay, so let's talk about what is going on here.
This
Richie.
was really one of the most gratifying parts is the fact that you got all these girls to participate
young ladies.
again.
Young ladies.
Yeah, these young ladies, these awesome human beings, really. I mean, they're girls, whatever, but
Moving on.
yeah, awesome people who participated previously got them to come back and do another skit for us, and it really came out really funny. And you mentioned to me that they all did this. A lot of it was improvised. You were kind of guiding them on how to portray it, but they were making it up as they went along, and it came out really funny to me.
Well, you can't give them scripted stuff because otherwise it doesn't
Yeah.
make much sense. So I wrote down some questions here, but I'm trying to decipher my own handwriting because I wrote them like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, I was trying to read them and I didn't understand.
About your experience. Okay, which one of these was your favorite guests? Of all the guests that we interviewed, and this is no matter who Richard picks, that's no disrespect to any other guest, but, well, I guess a different way to put it would be
It's Danny Douglas.
Danny Douglas. I was going to say the favorite episode, I guess, but why? Tell me
My
about...
favorite guest, Danny Douglas, because she reminds me more of myself than the other girls do, and that means no offense or anything. Just people are different.
I already covered that.
Danny reminds me more of myself, and I think she takes on the role of the observer more, and I really appreciate that. Because then when you get someone who spends a lot of time observing or taking in stuff, and you finally get them to start talking about things and express themselves, it's really interesting to me.
And it's actually a shame because we did have Danny over to be a part of this particular segment where she does this whole like lie thing and like acts like you're an asshole. But because it lasted so long and because there were so many other funny little moments, we had to just cut it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have made any sense.
Yeah,
Which
I'm so glad she came though.
yeah, me too. Yeah, sorry,
just sad
Danny.
like that.
She doesn't give a shit. She doesn't care.
It was
She's got her
so
own
fun, though.
successful life going on. She just bought a house. Fucking asshole.
Desmond?
No, not with Desmond. Just Desmond Quinn. Everybody. That's from episode 2.
Well,
you can or episode 3.
for a future version of this.
So, which one? So is it the guest that's the most interesting, or is it the episode that's most interesting? Do you have one and the same, or?
No, the episode that I actually found most interesting was Tina Taylor, and that was because of like her profession and the fact that she runs her own successful business. That it happens to be pet grooming, which I find. I mean, it's a little bit absurd to me that there's such a demand for people to get their pets groomed by, like a higher end professional to do that. It's funny to me. There's nothing wrong with it. But that was really interesting. She was just interesting overall.
I mean, I never really learned much about what she did. I as soon as I smelled her hair for the first time, I was just like, I'm sold. Like.
And you could see how people would want their pets to smell the same way.
How did it feel when Tina Taylor hit on you, all like throughout the entire duration of the show?
Completely inauthentic. Because no, it felt
I don't
good.
understand
It
what you
was
mean.
fun to act it out, but no, I could tell that she would be interested in me. That's silly.
Let's see, what's my next? What kind of
Vision
retainers have you
that
heard
we
the
all
biller?
saw
So
as
we're just trying to figure this out.
Ken being portrayed as
I
sort
can't
of
read my own handwriting.
off camera that was
What are you laughing at?
The epic ass shot of Rachel Rutherford.
Ken as this
I'm sorry, I mean,
Well,
it's there,
we're
just
gonna
calling
edit
it
that
out.
one out. Let's just keep going.
Alright.
Now, as you watched all these episodes together, all these clips, was there a intensity of jealousness that you experienced? And honestly, that's in character. I told myself I wouldn't do the in character. What do you think about the character I
No,
portray?
because people take different paths or whatever, and some people have lives where they sleep with a great number of partners, and other people take the path of sleeping with a minimal amount of partners, and really what this show reinforces to me. And like I still really like you and respect you and stuff. It doesn't matter which path you take. Neither one is righteous over the other. So like that's kind of the beauty of it.
I'm a Nazi sympathizer.
I'm not taking it back.
It's terrible. Rich is a Nazi sympathizer.
That's not my words at all. That's someone else's opinion.
So, do you think that people think that? First of all, nobody watches the show. We are in agreement about this, right? Like we're
More
not.
than 100 people have watched it. That's a sizable
One particular
amount. That's
episode.
enough people to form
But-
a thriving communistic community.
But what do you think people think when they watch when they watch this bullshit show? Do they think that we think that we're real? Do they think that? What do you think the general average reaction is?
I think it's enough apparent that these are just like two dudes doing some project, and I think the beauty of it is that people might not know exactly what to think because it's kind of original. Like it pulls from a lot of classic elements, but it's original in its own right. And maybe you don't get it if you don't know us, and that might separate it from what makes something successful. But
Yeah, I don't think
I
anybody.
think for people that know us, it's interesting to them, and people that know us and might not have seen all aspects of us, at least more for my life, it shows people a little more, about me.
I think you actually mentioned those things almost word for word.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this segment, Richie. Why don't you talk about your experience for this particular segment?
This was fun, because I have written a lot of stuff this year, and like I've shared some things. And
You're
haven't
literally
shared
just
other
re-saying the
things.
exact same things you're saying. Why don't you tell me about what your experience was shooting this?
Shooting it was good. Like you gave me the exercise where I would practice it, verbalizing it. I did that in your bedroom, sitting on your bed. It was really romantic.
Let's not
and
keep
then-
that in.
So yeah, you encouraged me to practice it because I write stuff and I don't even like practice saying it sometimes. I just write it. So I did it for this because you encouraged me right before we did this, and it came out really well because I think it flowed really well off my tongue. And you said you took the first take of it.
Well,
But I
because
was really
you
nervous about it.
well, but your nervousness made so Rich did this series of stanzas or this poem several times, maybe 10 times almost, and it was the first, whatever, 3 to 5, and it was the first take that we used. And the reason why that first take was used was because it was the most authentic. And if you listen to his voice, if you listen to the way that he talks to Brittany herself, it's sincere and considerate and real. And look at his eyes. I mean, look at your eyes right now. This is the first time you did this. You did it in one take all the way through. And I think that says something. Like, it was a nice little thing. We could talk about the proposal part.
Yeah, I was happy to see that the first take was usable. That actually made me feel good after the fact. Because I did this as the first take, and then I did like the same thing, like 3 to 5 more times. Just because Ken left me in the room and I wanted to make sure I got it. But it was pleasing to see the first take we used. That was cool.
Well, I mean, the idea would be like if you fucked up one stanza, you could use another stanza to put it in there. But like you from
and in all honesty, we did do that with the last stanza, which should be coming up anytime.
Well, but that was because there's the
You
joke.
in the shot,
Yeah, there's a joke there where I
Totally
go into
cheating.
frame and everything. But I already established that like before we even did all that stuff. So
And that wasn't the real ring, by the way.
no, it
Just
wasn't
in
the real
case
ring.
anyone's trying to
Oh, let's
judge it or
talk
something,
about why it
was
wasn't the real ring.
I forgot to bring it.
No. Let's bring.
Ken reminded me even maybe just a couple hours before I came over to bring it, and then I still forgot it. So then we had to obtain
We?
I was part of it. I was standing there with you.
I
knocking on
asked-
a door.
I asked a very close friend of mine to give
He's
me a
just in
prop.
white tee. What a bug.
All right, so now we come to the final little closing part where we just fucking totally wung it.
I really like this part too. This was a lot of fun.
So I'm asking you about getting married.
First of all, don't let someone.
Yeah, and then, like the wardrobes are sweet. I really like how we both look in this segment.
We made up our own
I
wardrobes.
throw the fake ring.
Well, we made up our own wardrobes. Like you wore your
Yeah.
sh- I tried to make you wear my shit, and then you were like, it stinks. So I'm not gonna wear it.
Literally.
And I thought that would be cruel to do that.
No, it was great because I was supposed to dress a little more dressed up in my role, and Ken wore whatever, so we kind of flip-flop roles. But you can see our own vision of each other's roles. Like Ken wants to do the whole suit, and I want to do a little more like color matching or whatever. But
Well, I was doing. Why do you think I was doing a suit?
because you own one, and I don't.
No, that's not why. I was doing a suit because it was a big like send off. It's like
Yeah.
it's like. Well, then what do you mean? Yeah, why would you say?
No, it's because I dressed up for the other ones up to like what my wardrobe dictates. Like I wore, decent stuff or whatever. And then in my segment here, like you want me to wear pajamas and stuff, like I actually have really nice pajamas.
Yeah,
but I don't have
it's a
nice
very
suit.
similar costume. It's like an evil version of the costume that I wear.
No, mine like it matches and
No, it's like a Sith version of the Jedi costume that I wear. I mean, I don't know how you could disagree with that.
I don't understand Star Wars. That shit is boring.
Like a fun young man.
We're not doing that on this commentary.
Did we do that just to like promote McDonald's? Do they have like is that part of like? Your
No, I thought of
vegan
the least.
advertising?
No, because
Promote
when the
Star Wars and
audio,
McDonald's, they do
because
that?
you're saying that you want to do it at a nice place, a special place, and I put McDonald's up there
Yeah.
so that everybody would think that.
Well, I mean-
And then when we switch, you say something about lying. You're like, yeah, I really like enjoy when like people just lie about me on the internet.
Oh no, it was in reference because that documentary segment they're talking about how bad I am, and I may or may not actually be that way. They could have been lying about
Everything
me.
you do.
Oh.
And then
There's
just,
no
like,
they.
discover
There's
that
just
way,
me, and I'm very
not only
objective
does
about
it
what I do.
look
No,
better,
the four
looks better.
girls, well, Danny Douglas stuff didn't make the cut, but the other three had that segment where they talked about all the off-scene stuff, which may or may not have actually happened.
So here's where we switch, and here's where you get started. Here's where we're very late into the night of a very long day. We had all these young ladies over at the same day. We're very tired. We're just kind of bullshitting, and I guess that's kind of what's happening now. So, Richie, what do you think about all this bullshit? Like, what was your experience like doing this crap show?
It was really fun because, from my perspective, I'm just like a normal guy who works a job and doesn't really do that much creative stuff. So this for me was kind of like a little bit breaking out of my own shell, just like participating in making something. What it's for doesn't totally matter. Just going through the process of making a show was really helpful to me. And
You mean
making it
participating
interesting.
in a show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still in character. Like, I can't get out of character where we do.
I
we do
had
shit.
creative input.
You did. I mean, you didn't just have creative input. Like, you kind of made the show. Like, we didn't have conversations about, like, which jokes would be made most of the time. You just, like, were funnier. And, like, that's really funny.
It's fun.
How did,
It's
Brittany,
because
how did Brittany receive the show?
All those.
she really liked it. We had a great party. We had a great engagement party. I took Brittany. I proposed to her at Greenfield Village in Dearborn, Michigan, and down by the little river there. Not all of you know what I'm talking about. There's a river down there. I took her down there and proposed to her. And then brought her back to my house where our friends were waiting for us, friends and family were waiting for us, and we had a great party at my house. Deep fried a bunch of awesome food.
No one cares. No one
candy
cares.
bars and stuff. It
Candy
was
bars.
great.
Deep fried candy bars.
And that was kind of the theme.
Deep
of it.
fried candy bars is the way to
amazing,
celebrate.
Amazing panko chicken tenders. It was exquisite.
Anyway.
And then after everyone was gone by 10:30, we watched this video and she cried a little bit.
Oh my
and
God.
It was just great. She loved it.
All right. So what we're coming down to now is the last final cutscene. So by the time these are done, we should probably make our end remarks. God, you look so much less attractive than me. That's where I slap you on the wrist and tell you how to do something, and then you say no, and then I get
Yeah, I
mad.
say you don't know what you're doing, and I do, and then somehow it still gets done.
Well, Richie, I had a great time doing this fucking shit, bro.
So did I.
And
We'll
yeah.
have to do something.
We made a lot of
No,
more
our
interesting
time
in
is
the future.
terminated. Now I need to move on to a less
Completely aware that you are already in possession of the
subservient, more attractive
Yeah, and I need to
version
get paid
than
for
you.
my efforts, so our relationship is obviously diverging from here.
Well, thank you for listening to our commentary track on this track on YouTube. And God, I'm so much more handsome when I laugh.
Where did the jacket come up? When did it happen?
That's it. I had to edit all that out. Good night, everybody.